right, welcome back to another episode of CRE, The Unspoken Truth. As always, it's Charlie Coppola and my dad, Craig Coppola, Lee & Associates, Arizona founding broker, and a top producing broker in the history of Lee & Associates. So, and of course, a couple years ago, founded CRE One Source together. So today, our topic is probably your favorite topic in the history of all podcast topics.
Love it.
It's definitely one of your favorite words. It's a core value of ours, and it is velocity. So start us off. What does velocity mean?
Well, where do I start? I love this word. I use it all the time. I use it probably 10 times a day. And the reason I do, but brokerage is a tough business. And we are client driven. Our clients are number one. They will call you at all hours. I thought getting the commercial brokerage that I would be normal business hours. It has not turned out to be that way. 40 years later, I work on the weekends. I talk to clients on the weekends. In fact, the other night, you and I were talking on Saturday. We were meeting. You said, "You're going to call them?" I go, "Yeah, I call people on Saturday all the time. They call me, I call them." So we actually set up a meeting on Saturday. And so this idea that I developed at Velocity was I was tired of how the traditional broker worked. And how they worked was, I'll get back to you, didn't return phone calls, didn't email properly. Back in the day, we didn't have emails. So we were in the calling business. And so we had to develop something that was different. And I wanted to be known for something different. And so I created this topic of velocity, and we now have incorporated into our Coppola Cheney team at Lee & Associates, and we have it as one of our core values or non-negotiables at CRE One Source. And so velocity means, and it's a big word, we'll break it down, but it's very important to me.
Yeah, let's start. What is velocity not? When we describe it internally to anyone we hire, I actually always start by defining it by what it isn't. And so you want to tell us what velocity is not?
I'd be curious what you tell everybody, and then let me fill in the blanks. So what do you say it's not?
Velocity is not working 24/7. Velocity is not, I have to do everything all at once. Velocity is not meant to add stress. It's meant to, I always say velocity is movement, right? That's kind of how I end that part of the definition. So it's just moving things. It's no black holes. It's in my court. Now it's on your court. Now it's over here. And we're continuously moving it, improving it every touch point. And it's not sitting anywhere for a week.
Yes. And in the brokerage business, because we're trying to get one, we have to do so many things. The first thing we have to do is go chase business. We have to cold call, develop relationships, get business. And that requires us to do things that a lot of people don't really want to do. Cold calling isn't something that a lot of people love. Jim Troba over at CBRE loves it. It's what he's been doing for 35 years. He's been making cold calls all week, every week. That's what he does. He is a rare bird. I'm super impressed with how he's done it, but that's not how I could do it. So I had to figure out a way to cold call. And so velocity became that. How am I going to get these calls in? Then we have transactions that are moving. And we know there's an adage in brokerage that time kills all deals. And so I wanted my deals to move faster. I wanted them to close faster. I wanted them to be on a different pace than most brokerage companies and brokers do. And so we did that. And then I had all these other things that we have to do in our business. We have to prepare presentations. We have to do booking packages. We have to, do analysis. We have to track our transactions like we do in DealView. All of those things require us to do stuff. So I wanted our velocity to be always moving things down the road. And so what I found when I started changing from just my brokerage, me being the main broker with an assistant, and the two of us could move back and forth. And now I have a big team. I had to I had to formalize it. So we call it velocity. I actually have a talk that I do on it. And I've done it a number of times to public groups on velocity. It's well received because it's not done in the corporate world. And velocity doesn't mean exactly what you said it does. It means It means things are always moving. When I was by myself, I literally had a list called the black hole list. And since I had Chelsea in the last 13 years, there's no black hole list. Everything's moving, even if we delay it. So we can say, hey, we're not going to get on this until September of 2024. And that's fine. That's the velocity too. We pushed it to that. So it means that we are moving things. It also means that we are making it better. We're trying to get to the end line. So some things are faster, some things are slower, but you can't sit around and say, we just use the word velocity. What's the velocity on this? I haven't seen it in 48 hours. So I can give you some specifics, but I've been talking now because I can ramble on velocity.
Yeah. Well, I'll give one specific and then I want to hear a couple of yours, but someone on our group, right? One of the things we ask when someone joins our team is, I want you to meet with Craig for 30 minutes and I want him to review, these two topics with you, right? And so we always put it on the new employee to actually schedule that meeting as a way of saying, hey, you're in charge of your own success. And so my example is, hey, I'm asking you to do this in the next 30 days. It doesn't matter if it's day 1 or day 30, just do it in the next 30 days. And so, okay, it's somewhat urgent, but not too urgent. And the example I'll walk through is, okay, let's say we wait till day 15. I reach out to Craig and I say, hey, I'd like to schedule a meeting. Here are the times I'm available. Let's cover these 3 topics. You don't see the email, all right? And this is just a hypothetical example. You don't see the email. So 3 more days later, I follow up. Okay, now we're on day 18. Oh, hey, I'm really busy the next 2 days. You finally respond. I'm really busy the next 2 days. And then I'm headed out of town for 10 days. Okay, dang, you just missed your 30-day goal of trying to get this meeting done. And it was very avoidable because it sat on your plate for 15 days. You should have gotten it off your plate, got it on Craig's court, got it scheduled, got it done. And so that's the example. It's a small example. But if you multiply that to everything you're doing, it makes a big difference.
So a couple things. First of all, it would never happen with me because I reply to every email, right, within the next day or so. If there's an email that requires some kind of attention, I get to it. So I'm constantly trying to get to inbox 0. That's a velocity, internal velocity to me. So you talk about there's internal velocities, and as a leader, I always say leaders lead all the time. And so I'm one. So it's like I show velocity to my team. If somebody sends me an email and has me do something, I am on it. I don't delay them. I am never the backlog. So that would never happen on that instance. I'm never the one who's going to slow this down. And so I will stay late, sleep in. I will get up early. I will do whatever so I get this stuff out of my inbox. Number 2, velocity is also something like if you can do it right away, you do it. So I'll give you an example, some specifics. We return all phone calls that come to us. All phone calls were returned within 3 or 4 hours. Any phone call that comes into our team will be returned within 4 hours. Now, why do we say 4 hours? Because we might be out touring properties for a morning, but we'll get it in the afternoon. We will return all phone calls that day. Doesn't matter if we don't get in till 8 o'clock that night. We will send an email or we will call them that night. All emails are returned now because we have emails in our cell phone. All emails are returned within 3 hours. And it might be just a reply, got your email, hang on, I'm out touring, I'll get back to you tonight. So we are letting people know on all transactions that we are on it, that we're going to do that. We have a culture within our organization. If I send out an email or somebody sends an email to me, I'll reply, got it, I'm on it. Or got it, I'm out of town, I'm going to get back to it on this date, whatever it is. But we are letting people know we're communicating. And velocity is a communication tool. So we set the ground rules. We say, email, got to reply to me. I got it. And when I'm going to get back to you. If it's not within 24 to 48 hours, then you have to put a date on it. So if you just say, I got it, then I'm going to assume that you're going to get it back to me within the next 24 to 48 hours. If you aren't, then you have to tell me. Or if you think you are and then you don't, then you have to reply to me again and go, look, I thought I could get it to you tomorrow, but it looks like I got this, and this came up, so it's going to give me another 2 days. So when we talk about velocity, it's a communication back and forth, not just the fact that we're moving the ball down the field on everything that we're doing. And when I say everything, literally everything, it's not just emails and phone calls. It's not just calling our clients. It's not just cold calls. It is, we're working on a new presentation. We're doing We're doing a seminar for our people. You know, those things we are working on. You would be amazed at Chelsea. You'd see what Chelsea and I work on during a week. There will be 20 things that are all unbelievably disparate things, nothing to do with transactions, but we're working on trying to get ahead of the team.
Yeah, and we've built that up in at CRE OneSource too, right? So if there's a customer question, if there's a billing question, if there needs to be a change made to the bulk upload on their account, we respond immediately. We get it in front of our engineers, our product team immediately, and then we get an estimate back, and we relay that estimate. You know, hopefully it's half hour, 1 hour. Sometimes it's a day or two, right? And so, but at least we're communicating. I think that makes things infinitely better, right?
I think people. I'm convinced. I want it. I would think that everybody else wants it. People want business should be run professionally, and I think it's only professional to be responsive, to be really organized, to be thoughtful, to let people know, communicate. All of those things all roll up under velocity, but they mean something to our teams. When we say the word velocity, and I have this funny thing that I'll do. So I'll send an email out to Chelsea and go, hey, I'd like you to find this spreadsheet that I was looking for. She'll send it back to me within 3 minutes. I'll send it back to her with the changes I want. She'll send it back to me. And in 5 minutes, I'll send it out to the client. And I'll be like, that is velocity. And I do that. I just prop the hell out of her and prop the hell out of our team when I see this. This afternoon, I'll give you an example. I had a meeting this morning with a client, and they have this new strategy to acquire office buildings. And so when the meeting ended, he said, look, why don't you take some time and put together based on our strategy for acquiring office buildings, send me some buildings that might fit. I walked out of the meeting, I walked over to Nick Adamczyk, and I said, here's what I want you to pull. And there were 5 different spreadsheets. And I said, I want you to pull these 5. And they ended up being 300 different buildings. It took him about an hour to do it, give it to me, and then broke it down the way I want. As soon as he gave it to me, I just grabbed my lunch and went through 300 buildings and marked the ones that I was pulling out. It turned out there was 14 that fit kind of what I wanted to show him. So I sent him, and then I gave him back to him. It took him another hour. And literally right before we jumped on this, I sent the email out to the guys that we had met with this morning that said, here's 5 different spreadsheets broken out by different sizes, 300 different buildings. And the last spreadsheet is the four that you are the 14 buildings that I think are the 14 that you want to look for. And so that meeting got over at 11. By 3 o'clock this afternoon, the velocity was there and it was done. And I would just say that that's normal business for us. And there I was sitting at my desk at Lee, knocking off these buildings. And they're like, do you really want to do that 8 to 5? And the answer was, yes, big client. I've known this client for 30 years, so it's certainly important to me. Most people would sit down for 30 minutes to take lunch. I took the 30 minutes and went through the 300 buildings. So I combined it. There's velocity. Did it today.
Yep. I love it. So how in your words would velocity compete with or work with priority? Like, how are the two related?
Oh, great question. So priority, that comes up all the time. So if what we've taught our people is to say, hey, I need you to do this right now. And if they have something that's important, they'll say, hey, is this more important or less important than ABC? And then I'll say, less important. Do that first. Or if they have 4 things, like Andrew's super busy, I'll say, hey, I need you to do this. And he'll say, I have A, B, C, and D. And I go, well, it's not A, it's not B. It might be C or D, but I'll give you the choice. And so how long before you get to C? And he'll give it to me. So when you get that, when we give a velocity thing and you can't get it done in the next 24 hours, then you have to push back and go, hey, here's what I'm doing for the next 24 hours. And it's going to take me 48, 72 hours to get it to you. And then I may say, hey, look, I think that's way more important. Let me give it to somebody else on the team, or let me do it myself, whatever it is.
Well, and it's communication, so that it's difficult. I'm learning it. It's hard to take that extra step and say, here's what I'm also working on. Where does it rank? And it's definitely harder when you're not in person. I think it's easier in person.
Yeah, I think there's two things that are really hard about velocity. The first one is what you said, this idea of prioritization, which is somebody, you know, you're in your late 20s. It's really hard to learn how to push back and prioritize. That's hard. Prioritization's just something that takes time to learn, especially when you're doing like you're doing. We're in a startup business. You're doing tons of stuff. The second thing that's really hard is getting the shit done. I mean, it's really hard to learn. There's, you're tired. This is important, but it's not urgent. And so I learned a long time ago that I want to live in my quadrant 2, which is not urgent, but important, not urgent, but important. Stephen Covey's quadrant 2 thinking. I want to live in the not urgent, but important area. And so I'm on that all the time. And so I know I'm really good at it. I know that. And I know it's taken me 30 years or 40 years to get there. And I know it's not easy, but it is valuable when you have this word in your head. And I started it 20 or 25, 30 years ago, going to myself, velocity, Craig. It would be another reason why I'd stay an extra hour at the office. It'd be another reason why I got up in the morning on a weekend to work. Velocity sells. And I just know that my clients, I've gotten business. I'll tell you a quick story. We had this super cool client. His name was Jay Main, and we chased this business. It was a company called Viasoft. They're no longer in business, but we had chased this business, and we did a formal pitch with Jay at 3 p.m. And one of the things that I used to sell when I was young in the business said, hey, I'm going to be at the office working late. I work late every night. I work late every night, and I'll be there. And this is what I do. I do all my non-essential work at night. And there I was at 9:45 or 10 o'clock that night, and the phone rang, and it was Jay Main. And he said, you told me you worked late at night. You got the business because you actually do work late at night. And I said, yeah, I'm going to be here every night. And I got the business from it. And that's where the velocity came in, because I was there doing the work that I couldn't do and didn't want to do 8 to 5 because I was a broker chasing deals. So velocity sells.
Yeah, I like that. Velocity sells. So I guess I'll summarize it, and I want to hear any last thoughts, but the way we started, it's your favorite word.
I got lots of favorite words. Just one of my favorite words.
It's the one that I hear a lot every day. It's velocity is movement, right? No black holes. You said earlier you wanted your deals to close faster, and then you ended it with saying velocity sells. And so I can see, I know it because I see it in our business, but clients like it, right? Clients like when you're on top of things, you're communicating. And a couple of things you do to embody velocity. Inbox zero, you get to your emails, you respond to emails within 4 hours, you respond to, you call people back within 4 hours. So those are a couple ways to actually live velocity. And then the prioritization. It's always, okay, I'm working on A, B, C. Where does this fit in that? Is it more important or less important? And being willing to ask that question. So, that's how
summary.
it all play.
Great summary. Again, we're building culture based on communicate. We're building culture based on a vocabulary that we're creating. Velocity is one of those vocabularies that's in the Capola Cheney team, and it's here at CRE OneSource. Velocity means so much, but when you say the one word, everybody on the team is aware what that means. It means communication. It means prioritization. It means movement. It means we're going to get shit done. It means that we are better than everybody else. And so that one word, because it becomes my favorite word, is all encompassing for us to be just really good at what we do. And I think we are. I mean, if those people who have bought from us at OneSource will say we are on them. We are not allowing them to sit idle. If they're not, you guys will check and see if they're in their deals, and we'll call them saying, hey, you need to get on your deals, because we're building a company culture here, and a company that's very valuable to brokers, and they don't have this service, they don't have this software program, and they don't have anything, they haven't seen anything like we execute. Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And looking forward to next time.
There you go. Thank you.